Hi everyone, welcome back to my studio. This is Steve and this is One Drum Computer Day. And today we have a closer look at this funky little machine. This is the BME Rattlesnake. It's a fully analog drum machine made in Germany around 82 or 83 by Hans-Peter Baumann, hence the name BME. The Rattlesnake was competitors to the famous analog drums like Simmons, for instance, but it was much cheaper back in the day. It was around like 500 Deutschmarks, which would be like 250 euro. So it was a real bargain, and I think it actually sold quite good. Anyway, it's pretty tough to find one out in the wild today. So that's one more reason to have a closer look and listen to this funky little snake. Alright, let's check it out. First of all, we have 11 fully analog drum sounds. It's a bass drum, snare, bass tom, low tom, high tom, low claves, hi-hat, snare, cymbal, and of course one hand clap. It's a preset drum machine, so on the machine itself you can't really program your own beats, but you have this matrix here with 4 switches and 2 bank switches. So that means you have 4 banks, and every bank holds like a combination of different patterns. Also you can select some breaks, so you get quite a variety of pre-programmed beats. There's a port on the backside, I'll show it later, so you were able to hook it up to drum pads, so in a little bit like the Simmons drums I mentioned earlier. And the funny fact is that these famous Simmons drum pads, they like a hexagon pad, and the pads for this machine were called the Pentagon, and they used drum practicing pads from Tama, and they put like little piezos in it, so they were used to play the Rattlesnake live. Also, I heard that there was a sequencer around called the Big Brain. I've actually never saw it, so you were able to program your own beats if you had the Big Brain. So here's a tempo switch and here's a volume switch, and let's try the start button. Everything's muted except the bass drum, and see what happens. So here's the bass drum. You cannot really hear it on the phone, but it's quite a fat bass drum. It's very like 808ish with like a nice sub. And let's switch on the snare. This sounds like old organs. Let's bring in the hi-hat. The hi-hat is also quite nice, also sounds a bit like the classic 808. Let's see what else do we have. Let's bring in some low claves. Not in this beat. Let's see what else. Funny little high tom. And a little low tom. It's a very interesting sound. And you can change the snare to the clap. So now it replaces the snare. To be honest, the clap sounds pretty bad on this one. Sounds a bit like, sounds a bit broken, but I think that's actually how it sounded back in the day. So I go back to the snare. The interesting part is that you have those 2 switches. One is called like the parametric, and this gives you access to these little encoders down here. Actually they are just like normal knobs, no encoder. And let's bring them all down, and if you switch it on, you switch on the parametric function, which gives you the option to change the sound. So let's check out the kick. and this does like different things. So the sound gets longer. If I bring it to the left, it's very dry. If I bring it to the right, it gets more boomy. Let's see with the snare. On the left it's only noise, and if I dial it over here, let's listen solo. It gets like a little tone underneath it, and so I can tweak those sounds. I can pitch the toms. Later on I will do a proper recording with my audio interface on my phone, but it gets really interesting here. Let's try a different rhythm. Let's see what happens with the claves. Gets very metallic. Also starts to feedback if you turn it up. This thing is pretty interesting. And you can also tweak the hi-hat here. It's hard to tell what exactly is happening. It's kind of a mix of tuning and some filtering. Alright, and then there's another switch which sounds very promising, which is the scream sound. So let's bring everything down again and turn on the scream. And it gets very aggressive. Alright, that's a very quick and rough overview for the BME rattlesnake. I really enjoyed it. I did not listen to it for quite a while, and I really have to use it for a track, which I haven't done so far. Let's maybe have a look to the backside, and as I mentioned, there's the so-called universal port where you could hook it up to external sequencer or to your drum pads. So if you know the pins, I think that the pins you can find in the internet how they are wired, so you can either trigger the sounds from an external sequencer, or you can use the big brain if you're lucky and find it. There's a clock out, which is also pretty cool, so you can sync external gear, and also there's an external trigger in. I did not try so far, but then you can sync it up with your modular or whatever. There are two foot switches which you can connect, one for fill in and one for start and stop, of course. And there's a stereo out. If you use two outputs, everything gets spread out in the stereo field. Yeah, that's the BME rattlesnake. A little fun fact on the side. Since this machine became quite popular in the early 80s, the guy Hans-Peter Baumann was struggling to fulfill the demand for this machine. So people had to wait quite long, and then he came up with the idea for another product where you can store your sounds on little cartridges like this. They basically have like an EEPROM inside. So the next idea was to do something digital. And so he teamed up with a company called Dynacord in Germany, and his next product was released with the Dynacord brand. And this machine. It doesn't really fit in here. It's the Dynacord Percuter, and it had like the little cartridges here with digital sounds you can play from pads. I might show this in another episode. Alright, this was my quick and like always very rough and dirty handy video of the BME rattlesnake. I'll hook it up to my phone and record some audio demos, and hopefully you enjoyed it. See you next time.